Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to connect two worlds that you've probably never, ever thought about in the same sentence. The absolute cutting edge of artificial intelligence and a heavy metal that powers some of the most massive machines on the entire planet.
So, here's the big question for this explainer. What in the world connects that AI app on your phone to a nuclear reactor? I know, it sounds like a riddle, right? But the answer is actually reshaping global energy markets as we speak.
And this isn't some science fiction, far off in the future kind of thing. Nope. A recent global investor survey from Uranium.io just confirmed it. This is a massive market shift that's already happening, and frankly, it's catching a lot of people by surprise.
All right, so to really get this, you gotta picture a few dominoes lined up. And the very first domino to fall? It's the absolutely staggering, almost unbelievable energy appetite of AI.
Just think about it for a second. Every single time you use an AI, you're tapping into a giant, power-hungry data center somewhere. And as AI expands at this blistering pace, well, the demand for electricity is just exploding right along with it.
And look, it's not just a few people noticing this. As you can see here, more than 63% of investors now believe that AI's energy use is a major factor in how we plan for our energy future. The market is definitely waking up to this new reality.
So here's the key takeaway. This isn't just some temporary spike. Experts are calling this a new structural demand. What that means is it's a permanent, long-term shift in what the world needs for energy. It's baked into the system now, all thanks to AI and huge data centers.
Okay, so if AI is creating this huge, permanent need for power, where do we get it? Well, that leads us right to the second domino, the big, and I mean big, comeback of nuclear power. So why nuclear? Well, these AI data centers, they need power 24/7, no breaks. And this comparison kind of says it all. You know, wind and solar are fantastic, but the sun isn't always shining and the wind isn't always blowing. Nuclear provides that constant, reliable, carbon-free baseload power. It's exactly what this new digital world needs.
And it's not just the tech companies who figured this out. All around the world, governments are throwing their weight behind this. You've got new incentives popping up in North America, favorable finance rules in Europe, and huge state-backed expansion plans across Asia and the Middle East. The momentum is just undeniable.
Okay, so we have this massive new demand from AI. We have a perfect solution with nuclear power. Sounds great, right? Well, that brings us to our third domino, and this is where the story gets really interesting. We're talking about a potential squeeze on the one thing that makes it all possible: uranium.
This chart just lays out the problem so clearly. Investors are expecting that, in the near future, the world's mines are only going to supply less than 75% of the uranium we're going to need for all these reactors. I mean, that's a massive supply gap.
So why is this even happening? Well, it's a perfect storm, really. For years, prices were so low that nobody was investing in new mines. Then you have the fact that it can take a decade or more just to get a new mine approved and built. And on top of all that, the reserve stockpiles we used to rely on are starting to run low.
You know, the experts over at Sprott Asset Management put it perfectly. They say the market right now has two speeds. You might see the price bounce around day to day, sure, but underneath all that noise, the long-term story, the fundamentals, are getting incredibly bullish.
So, what happens when this unstoppable demand crashes into this very, very tight supply? It signals a whole new era for uranium.
And investors are absolutely taking note. A staggering 85% of those surveyed expect uranium prices to just keep climbing through 2026. That kind of consensus is overwhelming. It really makes you wonder, just how high could they go?
So what kind of prices are we actually talking about? Well, a lot of analysts are starting to see a new price floor forming, right around the $100 per pound mark. But many think that's just the starting point. They see prices pushing up toward $120 a pound as all these power companies scramble to lock in their fuel for the long haul.
But here's the real kicker. If that supply gap we talked about doesn't close, some analysts are forecasting prices as high as $135. Now that would be a truly dramatic move for this market.
But you know what? This whole story is about way more than just numbers on a screen. The really crucial point here is that the very idea of what uranium is changing.
This right here captures the shift perfectly. Uranium isn't just a simple fuel anymore. It's being completely reframed as a critical resource for our energy security and for our entire digital future.
Which leaves us with one last pretty powerful question to think about.
As AI continues to completely reshape our world, is this quiet, unassuming metal, uranium, actually becoming the single most critical resource for the entire AI age? Based on the data, that's a question we all need to start thinking about.